On board a U.S. aircraft carrier, an unexpected threat appears in the sky, a Russian spy plane. As it boldly flies above a U.S. aircraft carrier, the tension on board heightens. What are its intentions? Is this a routine surveillance operation or something far more sinister? What will be the reaction of the U.S. Navy, knowing that any misstep could escalate the situation quickly? What are the consequences of this move, or could it spark a dangerous escalation? The tension is palpable. Find out what unfolded in those critical moments as we explore the events of how a Russian spy plane flies above U.S. aircraft carrier. Then this happened. The U.S. aircraft carrier. The U.S. aircraft carrier is a formidable symbol of American military prowess, functioning as a mobile base for power projection in international waters. These floating fortresses are equipped with cutting-edge technology, allowing them to operate effectively in various maritime environments. But with ongoing geopolitical tensions, the presence of these carriers becomes increasingly significant, especially when facing reconnaissance threats from adversarial forces like Russian spy planes. Take the USS Ronald Reagan, for instance. This Nimitz-class supercarrier stretches nearly 1,092 feet long and displaces around 100,000 tons of water. It's not just size that matters. Its capabilities are nothing short of extraordinary. These carriers bristle with sophisticated technology. Think radar systems so advanced they can detect a seagull flapping its wings miles away. And let's not forget the fighter jets on standby, the F/A-18 Hornets. Often described as flying Swiss Army knives given their versatility, these jets can switch from air-to-air combat to ground strikes in a blink, making them indispensable. But wait, there's more. The defensive mechanisms are equally a marvel to behold. They boast of phalanx close-in weapon systems that provide last-ditch defense against incoming missiles or enemy aircraft with their rapid-firing Gatling guns. Also, anti-submarine systems ensure that threats from beneath the waves are adequately countered. Electronic warfare suites are not left out, as they are capable of jamming enemy radar and communications. These suites add another layer of defense. Let's talk about the daily activity on this colossal floating fortress. Life aboard an aircraft carrier is anything but tedious, with over 5,000 sailors and aviators working in unison to ensure everything runs smoothly. One moment you might find intelligence officers poring over satellite images and intercepted communications. The next, jet fighters are catapulted off the deck for surveillance missions or training exercises. The carrier isn't just a lone wolf. It operates within a carrier strike group, CSG, including destroyers, cruisers, and submarines providing additional layers of security and operational capability. This group functions like a well-oiled machine, each component playing a crucial role in tasks ranging from maritime security to humanitarian assistance. Imagine being aboard one of these floating fortresses when an enemy spy plane cruises overhead. It's like having an uninvited guest peeking through your windows, unnerving to say the least. The psychological impact can't be overstated. Everyone on board knows that their every move could be monitored, analyzed, and scrutinized by adversaries. This sense of being watched adds an invisible layer of tension to daily operations. It's not just about physical security. It's about safeguarding sensitive information and maintaining operational integrity under constant surveillance pressure. Now let's talk about Russian spy planes. Russian spy planes are the silent guardians of intelligence gathering. These flying giants, like the Ilyushin Il-20M and the Tu-214R, are not your average jets. They're loaded with state-of-the-art surveillance equipment designed to uncover the secrets of their targets below. Let's take a closer look at these flying spies. When we talk about Russian spy planes, two names frequently pop up: the Ilyushin Il-20M and the Tu-214R. Each aircraft is a masterpiece of military engineering, purpose-built for snooping from above. The Ilyushin Il-20M, known as the Coot A by NATO, this plane is a veteran in the reconnaissance space. It is fitted with an array of sensors. It's adept at signals intelligence and electronic intelligence. Its radar systems can map out ground targets with precision, while onboard cameras capture high-resolution images. On the other hand, the Tu-214R takes spying to another level. Equipped with multiple synthetic aperture radar SAR systems, it can see through clouds and even some forms of camouflage. The Tu-214R also boasts advanced optical sensors and communication interception tools, making it a formidable tool for eavesdropping on enemy communications. But what drives these Russian spy planes to hover near US carriers? The answer lies in their insatiable appetite for intelligence. Their primary mission is to gather as much information as possible about America's floating fortresses. They eavesdrop on both encrypted and unencrypted communications between ships in the carrier group and their command centers. This can provide insights into operational plans, readiness levels, and even classified information if encryption is weak or compromised. Meanwhile, high-resolution cameras aboard these planes snap detailed images of defense installations on the carriers. This helps in identifying missile launchers, radar arrays, and other critical defense mechanisms. Also, by capturing the electronic emissions from radar systems and communication devices, they can create an electronic order of battle, EOB, which reveals the operational capabilities of the carrier group. Let's explore the advanced technology used by these spy planes for data collection. The sophistication of these Russian spy planes is embedded in every sensor and piece of equipment they carry. Both the IL-20M and Tu-214R are equipped with cutting-edge radars that can penetrate clouds, foliage, and even certain types of camouflage. Synthetic aperture radar, SAR, allows them to produce high-resolution images from great distances. What about the high-resolution cameras? These aren't your typical DSLR cameras. They're specialized optical sensors capable of capturing minute details from miles away. They can photograph defense installations with enough clarity to identify specific models of equipment. With an array of antennas and signal processors, these planes can intercept a wide range of communications frequencies. Whether it's radio chatter or encrypted digital communications, they have the tools to listen in. These airborne spies serve a dual purpose. They gather critical intel on potential adversaries while testing their reactions and defenses. And just like that, we find ourselves knee-deep in an aerial chess game where each move could tip global power balances one way or another. Why would a Russian reconnaissance aircraft near US aircraft carriers? The presence of Russian reconnaissance aircraft near US aircraft carriers is a calculated risk that stems from various strategic motivations. The act itself can be viewed through the lenses of military strategy, intelligence gathering, and geopolitical signaling. But what does Russia intend to gain from this attempt? From intelligence gathering to testing defenses, one could make a case for psychological warfare and geopolitical signaling. One of the primary motivations for Russian spy planes to approach US carriers is the collection of intelligence. By intercepting communications and photographing carrier defense systems, these aircraft can gather vital information about operational capabilities, readiness, and tactics. This intelligence helps Russia understand how US forces might respond in conflict scenarios, allowing them to refine their own military strategies. However, by flying close to US naval assets, Russia can gauge the effectiveness of American air defenses. This includes observing the response times of interceptors like the Fa-18 jets, which are scrambled when a Russian plane enters sensitive airspace. Analyzing the US response provides insights into American military readiness and technological capabilities. The psychological impact of Russian reconnaissance missions cannot be underestimated. These incursions serve as a reminder of Russia's presence and capabilities in contested waters, sending a message to both allies and adversaries that Russia is willing to assert its influence even in proximity to powerful US assets. Such actions often serve broader geopolitical interests. By demonstrating its reach and capability to operate near U.S. carriers, Russia aims to project strength on the international stage while asserting its role as a significant player in global security dynamics. This looks like a risky mission. Therefore, let's analyze the risks involved. Initially, tensions are escalated, and every encounter carries the risk of miscalculation that could escalate into conflict. An unexpected response from U.S. forces could lead to unintended consequences. A simple reconnaissance mission could spiral into an international incident if planes engage or collide. Also, engaging with U.S. naval forces poses inherent risks for Russian aircraft, especially if they enter restricted airspace or if defensive measures are activated. This may result in the loss of aircraft. The loss of an aircraft not only represents a strategic setback, but also has political ramifications, potentially igniting public outrage domestically within Russia. Each incursion can draw international scrutiny and condemnation, particularly if it leads to hostile exchanges. This can result in increased sanctions or diplomatic isolation for Russia, depending on how the United States chooses to frame the incident within broader geopolitical narratives. But let's not forget that there could be potential gains for either side or both sides. For Russia, successful missions can yield critical insights that enhance their operational planning. Also, demonstrating capability near U.S. carriers reinforces Russia's position as a formidable military power. But for the United States, each encounter serves as a live drill for U.S. forces, testing protocols and response mechanisms under real-world conditions. However, intercepting signals from Russian planes allows U.S. military intelligence to gain insights into Russian tactics and technologies. What happens when a Russian spy plane enters U.S. carrier airspace? Imagine the stretch of the ocean, an American aircraft carrier like the USS Ronald Reagan slicing through the waves with deadly precision. Suddenly, radar operators detect an unidentified aircraft approaching. The air crackles with tension as everyone on board prepares for what comes next. The crew members exchange nervous glances, their eyes reflecting the uncertainty of the situation. Despite the tension, they remain focused on their tasks, ready for whatever challenges lie ahead. The U.S. aircraft carriers are equipped with state-of-the-art radar systems, capable of detecting incoming threats from hundreds of miles away. These radars operate in tandem with surveillance drones, such as the MQ-4C Triton, which boasts advanced sensors and can stay airborne for up to 30 hours. Their radar systems consist of high-frequency radars that can track multiple targets simultaneously, providing real-time data to operators. Surveillance drones like the MQ-4C Triton offer unparalleled aerial surveillance, capturing high-resolution imagery and tracking enemy movements with its electro-optical infrared (EOIR) sensors. When an aircraft or threat is detected, certain protocols come into play. But we will focus on military protocols and NATO rules in situations like this. When an unidentified or hostile aircraft is detected, a series of well-rehearsed protocols kick in like identification, warnings, and escalation procedures. Operators attempt to identify the aircraft using radar signatures and visual confirmation. But if identification fails, a series of warnings are issued. These warnings say, "We see you and are prepared to act." NATO protocols dictate that these warnings escalate in intensity. Should the aircraft ignore warnings and continue its approach, commanders initiate escalation procedures. When the situation intensifies, FA-18 jets are scrambled for interception. The process unfolds rapidly and methodically, with preparation put in place. Pilots are on standby 24/7, ready to launch in an instant. The FA-18 jets roar into the sky. The jets close in on the intruding spy plane, establishing visual contact and attempting communication. These communication efforts often involve radioing the intruder to identify itself and issuing direct commands to change course or leave restricted airspace. Commanders must weigh their options carefully during these tense moments. They consider factors like rules of engagement. Their actions must align with established military guidelines, assessing whether the spy plane poses an immediate risk, weighing how aggressive actions may impact international relations. But what happens on the other side? On board the Russian spy plane, tension mounts as well. The crew is trained for such encounters, but knows any misstep could escalate into a full-blown conflict. They monitor communications closely while continuing their reconnaissance mission. Meanwhile, American commanders deliberate over their next move. Do we escort them out or force them down? The atmosphere is electric, as every decision carries immense weight. Russian pilots remain composed yet vigilant, adjusting their flight path subtly to avoid direct confrontation. They continuously gather intelligence data, even during interception, and communicate with ground control for further instructions. On the flip side, American commanders juggle multiple tasks, from coordinating between radar operators, drone pilots, and F/A-18 jet pilots, analyzing real-time data feeds from various sources and maintaining open channels with a higher command for guidance. These moments encapsulate a high-stakes chess game where each side tests nerves and strategy without igniting a full-scale conflict. Now, let's explore a real-life scenario. The 2016 USS Donald Cook incident. A notable example occurred in 2016 when Russian jets buzzed the USS Donald Cook in the Baltic Sea. This aggressive maneuver brought tensions to a boiling point, but was ultimately diffused through diplomatic channels. However, each encounter leaves scars on international relations and heightens the risks of future conflicts. As these aerial chess games continue, both sides constantly refine their strategies and responses. Each incident serves as both a test and a message, a demonstration of power and resolve in this ongoing geopolitical dance. The stakes couldn't be higher when national security hangs in balance, teetering on decisions made within split seconds by those entrusted with defending their nation's interests against prying eyes from above. These high-stakes episodes are more than just historical footnotes. They're like pages ripped from a Tom Clancy novel, only with real-world consequences. In April 2016, the USS Donald Cook, a guided missile destroyer, was conducting routine operations in the Baltic Sea. Out of nowhere, two Russian Su-24 fighter jets come roaring in, buzzing the ship at an alarmingly low altitude of just 100 feet. The jets make multiple passes, each one more provocative than the last. For the crew on board, it's like being in the eye of a storm. This encounter ended without any shots fired, but it was far from peaceful. The aggressive maneuvers by the Russian jets were deemed unsafe and unprofessional by US officials. Tensions escalated diplomatically, leading to stern warnings and heated exchanges between Washington and Moscow. Move forward to a more recent episode involving the USS Ronald Reagan. In October 2020, during bilateral training exercises with South Korea in the Pacific Ocean, two Russian Tu-142 Bear reconnaissance aircraft decided to make their presence felt. Flying within 1 nautical mile of the carrier at an altitude of just 500 feet, they skirted dangerously close to triggering a full-blown crisis. What was the outcome? 4 armed F/A-18 fighter jets were scrambled to intercept the Russian planes. The situation was managed delicately. Both sides knew that one wrong move could escalate into something far more severe. Eventually, the Russian planes were escorted away from the carrier without incident. These encounters aren't isolated incidents. They're part of a broader pattern that harks back to Cold War-era brinkmanship. Since the Ukraine crisis began on February 27, 2014, Russia has ramped up its sorties near US naval vessels as a show of strength and defiance. On July 4, 2015, symbolic for its significance to Americans, Russian aircraft were known to conduct flybys near US territories like California and Alaska. These actions serve dual purposes, testing U.S. defenses while sending a chilling political message. Each of these encounters acts like a prism through which we can view current geopolitical tensions. They underscore not just military strategies, but also diplomatic posturing. Every buzz or flyby triggers a cascade of diplomatic actions, protests lodged through official channels, public condemnations, and sometimes even sanctions. These events are covered differently depending on which side you're on. In Russia, such encounters are often portrayed as victories showcasing their military prowess. In contrast, Western media highlights them as aggressive provocations that jeopardize peace and stability. Intercepting a spy plane near a carrier and its implications for national security. When a Russian spy plane decides to get close to a U.S. aircraft carrier, it's not just about the thrill of the chase. This is a high-stakes intelligence game where every move is calculated and loaded with implications. Let's explore the variations of these aerial cat-and-mouse games. Imagine this scenario. A Russian Tu-214R spy plane is detected hovering dangerously close to the USS Ronald Reagan. The immediate question that arises isn't just about the breach of airspace, it's about what data they might be collecting. These planes are equipped with cutting-edge technology capable of intercepting communications, snapping high-resolution images, and mapping radar signatures. During this operation, sensitive information about carrier operations, defensive capabilities, and even personnel routines could be exposed. The intercepted intelligence can reveal weaknesses or vulnerabilities that adversaries might exploit, particularly in light of Russia's ongoing threats to U.S. interests. Every interception tests the readiness and response protocols of the U.S. Navy. It's a live drill in real-time conditions, ensuring that all units from radar operators to FA-18 pilots are prepared and efficient. Each encounter sends ripples through diplomatic channels. An intercepted spy plane can become a focal point in international negotiations or tensions, serving as both a warning and an assertion of sovereignty. However, in this high-stakes game, it's not just about who can gather more data. It's also about who can outmaneuver whom on the global chessboard. Both nations are locked in an endless dance of intelligence gathering and countermeasures. For instance, while Russian planes try to capture tactical data from U.S. carriers, American forces might be intercepting signals from those very spy planes to understand Russian strategies. Moreover, the skies above a U.S. aircraft carrier are highly restricted. Any breach can escalate tensions faster than you can say. Diplomatic crisis. Rapid escalation, given the fragile state of U.S.-Russia relations. Such incursions can swiftly lead to direct military confrontations. The presence of an unidentified or hostile aircraft prompts immediate defensive actions, often involving scrambling fighter jets, like the FA-18 Hornet, for interception. In these high-stakes moments, one misstep, whether it's a misinterpreted maneuver or delayed communication, can ignite a full-blown conflict. Spy planes entering restricted military zones without permission don't just risk confrontation. They also tread on thin legal ice. Entering another country's restricted airspace without authorization is a significant violation of international law. International law serves as both a guidepost and a point of contention in these scenarios. When spy planes enter restricted military zones, questions arise. Is this a violation of international law? What precedents are set by allowing such actions to go unchallenged? Both nations often skirt the edges of legal boundaries, using ambiguous areas of international law to justify their actions, while calling out violations by the other side. These actions can be construed as acts of aggression, providing legal grounds for defensive measures, which might include shooting down the intruding aircraft if deemed necessary to protect national security. Also, such incidents often lead to diplomatic protests and strained relations between nations. The violating country might face sanctions or other punitive measures from the international community. Additionally, these episodes can fuel nationalistic sentiments, and harden public attitudes toward perceived adversaries. What happens when this is all over? When the dust settles after an intense episode involving a Russian spy plane over a U.S. aircraft carrier, the immediate response is a mixture of relief and reflection within the U.S. Navy and military leadership. The successful interception of such reconnaissance attempts bolsters confidence in the capabilities of the carrier strike groups and reaffirms their deterrent posture. However, beneath this veneer of success lies a complex web of implications that merit critical examination. In the wake of these encounters, there's an urgent need for military readiness improvements. Lessons learned from each incident catalyze strategic reviews, leading to enhanced training protocols for pilots and crew alike. For instance, after close shaves with Russian planes, we may see increased frequency in simulated intercept missions, refining not just technical skills, but also decision-making under pressure. This cycle of adaptation does not stop at tactical adjustments. It extends to technological upgrades as well. The U.S. military is likely to invest in next-generation surveillance systems and electronic warfare capabilities that outpace those employed by adversaries. Such advancements are crucial not only to counter current threats, but also to anticipate future challenges posed by evolving military technologies. What about the psychological impact on personnel? The psychological ramifications of these encounters cannot be overlooked. Sailors and aviators aboard carriers are acutely aware that their actions are scrutinized by adversarial forces, leading to heightened stress levels during operations. While they are trained professionals capable of handling pressure, the constant awareness of being monitored can create an atmosphere fraught with anxiety. In the aftermath, extensive debriefings become a standard procedure. These sessions aim to address concerns and bolster morale among crew members while reinforcing confidence in their mission capabilities. The psychological impact necessitates a concerted focus on mental health resources within the Navy, ensuring personnel remain resilient amidst ongoing tensions. The ramifications extend beyond operational readiness. They reverberate through both domestic politics and international relations. Each encounter serves as a focal point for political discourse back home, influencing public perception about defense spending and military strategy. In Washington, these incidents often trigger debates over military funding and strategic priorities. Lawmakers may leverage such occurrences to advocate for increased defense budgets or advanced technological investments aimed at maintaining superiority over potential threats. As political factions vie for influence, narratives surrounding national security become intertwined with broader discussions on foreign policy. Moreover, these events often lead to calls for transparency regarding military engagements. As public interest grows in understanding how the military responds to perceived threats from Russia or any other adversary, scrutiny increases on operational protocols and decision-making processes within the Pentagon. On the international stage, encounters between U.S. carriers and Russian spy planes serve as potent symbols of power dynamics between nations. Each incident becomes fodder for media coverage that shapes perceptions globally, both among allies who look to the U.S. for leadership and adversaries who seek opportunities to challenge American authority. For NATO allies, these incidents underscore the importance of collective defense strategies. They may prompt discussions about joint exercises or collaborative intelligence sharing initiatives designed to enhance resilience against shared threats. Conversely, adversaries could interpret these encounters as provocations, warranting escalated responses or aggressive posturing in contested regions. From Russia's viewpoint, flying spy planes near U.S. carriers represents a calculated strategy rooted in demonstrating capability and gathering intelligence rather than outright confrontation. In analyzing what happens when tensions subside from the Russian side, one must consider their motivations and subsequent actions following such encounters. The primary goal behind deploying spy planes near U.S. carriers is diverse intelligence gathering, monitoring communications, assessing tactics, and evaluating technological capabilities. all critical components in shaping Russia's military strategies. When Russian aircraft return safely after these missions, they bring back valuable data that informs their understanding of U.S. naval operations. However, this intelligence-gathering endeavor isn't without risk. It reflects a precarious balance wherein aggressive reconnaissance missions could escalate tensions into open conflict if misinterpreted or mismanaged by either side. Following high-profile encounters with U.S. forces, Russia often engages in introspection regarding its military doctrine and approach towards Western powers. This critical analysis might lead to shifts in operational tactics or strategic postures aimed at improving response mechanisms during future interactions with NATO forces. For example, if interceptions become more frequent or aggressive from either side, Russia might consider bolstering its naval presence in strategically important regions like the Black Sea or Arctic waters, a move that could further increase tensions but is viewed as essential by Russian military planners seeking parity with NATO operations. As both sides reflect on what happens when each episode concludes, whether it's a successful interception by U.S. forces or another reconnaissance mission completed by Russian aircraft, the overarching theme remains one of uncertainty, marked by ongoing rivalry. Future interactions will likely continue this delicate dance between showcasing strength and avoiding direct confrontations that could spiral into larger conflicts. Both nations remain acutely aware that each encounter holds profound implications, not just for immediate national security, but also for long-term geopolitical stability. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.